How's it going, people? As lovers of cars, we all aspire to own the most incredible sports cars and supercars imaginable, with the highest speeds, the best handling, and overall the most unreal performance. However, due to budget constraints and the many things that cause them, many of us can't quite afford our dream cars and instead are forced to settle for something slightly more humbly priced. That does not necessarily mean we have to throw in the towel and commit to a Volvo Estate or a Toyota Prius just yet, as there are many cars in the second-hand market that can give us a taste of that performance we crave for a far more reasonable price. In this video, I'm going to provide you with the top 5 cars you can buy for less than £15,000, which will substitute for more expensive counterparts. And I'm not talking like, instead of a 918, buy a Porsche Boxster. I'm talking slightly more realistic comparisons. I've actually created a basic formula for ordering this top 5 in a fair way that doesn't just cater to my bias towards Audis. The horsepower and 0 to 60 times are compared between the cheap car and the expensive car it replaces to find the difference. The 0 to 60 difference is then taken as a numerical value and multiplied by 100 to make it similar to the horsepower figures. These figures are then added together, and the cheap car with the lowest figure after all this is therefore the closest in terms of out and out raw speed and power to its expensive counterpart. Hopefully that makes sense to you. As a quick note, I'm looking at this from the UK market perspective, so prices may differ in other countries depending on tax and other factors. Don't forget also that just because you can afford the car, it doesn't mean you can afford to live with the car. Maintenance, repairs, insurance and petrol should all be considered when buying a high performance car. Remember to like if you enjoy, comment down below to let me know your thoughts, and subscribe for more weekly car content. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video. Kicking us off at number 5 with 544 points, we have the Audi TTS, which is an affordable substitute for the Audi R8 V10 Plus. The Mark II R8 V10 Plus has been held in incredibly high regard by many since it was released in 2015, as it picks up where the Mark I Audi R8 left off. The perfect entry-level supercar, this German beast is a 5.2 litre V10 engine which puts out 602 brake horsepower through its 4 wheels, taking it from 0 to 60 in a staggering 3.2 seconds. However, because of these insane specs, the R8 is also the most expensive car on this list, with prices starting at £147,000 for a new model, while second-hand examples go for around 95 grand. This makes the car pretty unaffordable for the average person. That's where the all-wheel drive TTS comes in with its 2 litre turbocharged engine that creates 268 brake horsepower and goes from 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. Not bad for less than £15,000, especially when you realise a high mileage model goes for as little as 8 grand, less than 10 times the price of the cheapest V10 Plus. Although the TTS is based on the Mark II TT, it is the first S version of a TT, as the Mark I instead had a Quattro Sport Edition with the famous 1.8T engine. Though it isn't particularly comparable to the V10 Plus, the TTS is still a pretty beastly car with some cool features that will make you feel slightly less bad about the fact that you can't afford an R8. It has lower suspension with additional features like an electronic stability program to make for better handling, upgraded brakes with a nice TTS logo, 18-inch rims as standard with the option for 19s, and specific TTS body styling with huge air intakes and a menacing overall look. One feature I think is pretty cool is the lap timer on the instrument cluster, in case you need to race your personal best times to and from the shops. It's never going to have the performance or presence of an R8, but it's as close as you can get from a coupe Audi sports car for less than £15,000 with a similar-ish look. Some people say it even looks like a Mark I R8 that has been squashed in the front and rear. Coming in at number 4 with 335 points is the Nissan 370Z as a substitute for the Nissan GTR. I've spoken at length in another video about how incredible the GTR is as a cheap entry into supercar spec cars, as full price ones start at 80k while second hand ones go for as little as 30 grand. It's probably the most technologically advanced car on this list, and high spec ones have insane levels of power. At the entry level you're looking at 471 horsepower in 3.4 seconds 0 to 60 times from its 3.8 litre twin turbo V6 engine and all-wheel drive system. You can't expect the same level of brilliance for £15,000, but you can expect a similarly sized engine. A 3.7 litre V6 that makes 326 brake horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. The rear-wheel drive Nissan 370Z is a car with some serious specs for less than £15,000, and it even goes for as little as 10k on the high mileage models. But for £15,000 you'll get a 2009 to 2012 model with 30 to 50,000 miles on the clock. Not bad at all. The 370Z succeeded a slightly more hairdressery 350Z, and though it looks similar, it is actually an almost complete redesign by Nissan and has been in production since 2009. Its wheelbase is shorter, but its width has been increased, and a variety of lightweight materials have been used to make the car much lighter and much better handling than the 350Z. But probably the most interesting fact related to the 370Z is that the designer says he took inspiration from Shark Week during the design process. He suggests that the sides of the car are made to look like the belly of a shark, and the windows are meant to look similar to the profile of a shark. Whether or not you can see it, it's pretty cool to know that when you own the 370Z, it was based on sharks. benchmarks. You can't say the same thing when driving a GTR, although you can obviously say a whole lot of other things when driving a GTR. I personally am a fan of the 350Z, so it follows I'm also a fan of the 370Z, and for less than £15,000 it seems like an incredibly reasonable package and well worth 4th place on this list. On to the top 3 now, and in 3rd place with 287 points we have the Jaguar XKR as a substitute for the Jaguar F-Type SVR. I mentioned in a recent video that I'm a fan of the Jag, but the SVR in particular is another level. For £110,000 you get a 5 litre supercharged V8 putting out 567 brake horsepower and going from 0 to 60 in just 3.5 seconds. And it's all-wheel drive. The cheapest you'll pay for one of these right now is around the 75k mark for one with slightly more miles and low spec. As I've said before, the F-Type sounds incredible, and the SVR is, in my opinion, the best sounding of all of them, even if the sound is a little bit fake. It looks incredible, sounds incredible, and goes incredible. It almost, but not quite, has supercar status. But for just £15,000 you can get a slice of that supercharged V8 life by purchasing a Jaguar XKR. A 4.2 litre supercharged V8 for less than £15,000? That is most certainly a vibe. It does 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds thanks to its 420 horses and rear-wheel drive layout, and it doesn't sound half bad either. Not quite the SVR, but still going to turn heads way more than a healthy noise from my VW Polo ever would. The Jag debuted in 2006 and had a minor facelift in 2009, but the majority of XKRs for less than £15,000 are pre-facelift. You can get a 2007 model with less than 70,000 miles on it for 15 grand, or a high mileage model will set you back just 12.5 grand. Not bad for a supercharged V8. One thing I don't think the XKR can replicate is the presence that the SVR has. It does look great, but it's got far more of a classic Jag sleek and reserved feel to it than the bonkers savage look of the SVR. So if you're in the market for something that looks a little bit more refined for your 15 grand, look no further than the XKR. And if you want one that can deal with global warming, it also comes with a convertible version, though I personally am not a huge fan of soft top roofs. It's a pretty sick car for the price, and potentially even the one I might have off this list. Taking a very respectable number 2 with 245 points, the VW Beetle is a great substitute for the 92 grand 991 Porsche 911 Carrera 4S. Okay, just kidding. The 987 Porsche Cayman S is actually a super decent buy for less than 15 grand, and is quite comparable to the 4S in performance. Sorry to all those Beetle fans out there. The 4S has been around since the 996 in the early 2000s, and there are some pretty good prices on the second-hand market for high mileage models. However, the newest 4S, the 991 model, goes for a minimum of around £60,000. It must be said though, the car is a beast. An all-wheel drive 911 with a 3 litre 6-cylinder engine that produces 420 brake horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. Pretty sick specs, and you get to be part of that historic line of cars. The Targa 4S in particular is a beautiful looking car. Even though I just said I don't like soft tops, Targas are a different breed. But again, they're another premium on top of the Carrera 4S, so we'll forget about those for now. When you buy any 911, you know you're getting that incredible Porsche badge, and all the technology and performance that comes with it, which is probably why the Cayman S is so comparable on these terms. The 987S does 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds, puts out 295 brake horsepower, and has a 3.4 litre flat 6 engine, which is honestly not that far off the Carrera 4S, hence it's made it to second on the list. And what incredible styling the car has too. People often call it the baby 911, but in reality the Cayman S was actually designed to be pretty much a Boxster S with a hard top roof, hence the two cars share the same platform, fenders, boot lid, doors, headlights, taillights, and interior. The car isn't just a roofed Boxster though, it also took design inspiration from classic Porsches like the 356/1, the 550 Coupe, and the 904 Coupe, which is a pretty cool lineage to be a part of. You can pick up a 2006 Cayman S with around 50,000 miles on it for 15 grand, or if you're willing to settle for less, you can get one for around £10,500, which is really not that bad when you consider just how decent this car is when compared to other cars in its class. I personally want to have one in the next couple of years if the bank account will stretch that far. So, due to its performance and looks, the Cayman S is a solid Porsche in its own rights, and doesn't need to exist in the shadow of the 911, which makes it an even more worthy substitute for the 4S. If only it was all-wheel drive, then we'd have two super comparable Porsches to play with. Regardless, it's a great car and well worth second place on this list. It's the one you've all been waiting for. At number 1 this week with an incredible 194 points is the most powerful, quickest and oldest car on the list, the Mercedes-Benz SL55 compressor AMG, which is a decent substitute for the AMG GTR. The GTR is one of the most menacing and beastly looking Mercs who have left Stuttgart in years, boasting a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 that produces 577 brake horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. Pretty insane considering the car is rear-wheel drive. Prices start at around £142,000 for a brand new one, and second-hand ones go for pretty much the same price, because almost no one would buy the standard spec GTR given the plethora of mods you can do for it. As part of my research, I configured my ideal GTR, which came out at £175,000, so you can see there's a lot of money to be done in speccing. The GTR was released in 2017 and is one of the many variants of the standard AMG GT car, which was originally released in 2015. The GT has certainly made its mark in many fields, with the GTS variant acting as the Formula 1 safety car in the 2015 season. But as many of us can barely afford a GT, let alone the GTR, the SL55 AMG provides a reasonably priced alternative, with 15k bagging you a 2003 R230 model with 80,000 miles or less. The cheapest SL55s go for around 12k, which also isn't too bad when you compare its incredible specs against the AMG GTR. It has a 5.4 litre supercharged V8 which puts out a massive 493 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in just 4.7 seconds, and I can promise you firsthand that this is much more than enough, as I had the opportunity to drive a newer SL55 AMG with similar specs at Mercedes-Benz World last year, and oh my word did that car go, and also drift because of its rear-wheel drive setup. I tend to try and keep these videos as factual and information based as possible, but let me just speak openly about how ridiculous this car actually is. It absolutely goes. You put your foot on the throttle and seemingly moments later you're at 100 miles per hour plus, and then you put your foot on the brake and you stop quickly enough for parts of your body to fall off. It's actually insane. I can't believe you can actually buy this level of performance for less than 15 grand. It's an absolute steal. What makes the SL55 particularly special is its ancestors. It comes from a line of beautiful and tremendously expensive SLs. The 300 SL, the 190 SL, the 250 SL Pagoda, and many others have graced the SL lineage. I dread to think how much money there is in classic SLs. That's not to say that the SL55 will definitely appreciate in value, but even the SLs from the 1990s are starting to look like favourable options to put money in for the long term. Having actually driven this car, I could go on for ages about how insane it is, but for the sake of time I'll end it here. A well-deserved victory for the SL55 compressor AMG. So, to recap, I've given you my take on the top 5 cheap cars you can buy as substitutes for their far more expensive counterparts. Those were the Audi TTS for the Audi R8 V10 Plus, the Nissan 370Z for the Nissan GTR, the Jaguar XKR for the Jaguar F-Type SVR, the 987 Porsche Cayman S for the 991 Porsche 911 Carrera 4S, and the incredible Mercedes-Benz SL55 compressor AMG for the Mercedes-Benz AMG GTR. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my picks. I love reading comments and try to reply to everyone. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd be super grateful if you subscribed and hit the like button to show your support. But regardless, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Listen.